Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We will begin shortly. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our workshop tonight, Posture, Get It Straight. We've had several virtual workshops, and sometimes technology is not always the easiest to use, so please be patient with us tonight. We have a lot going on in our lives right now, and please know that Ardent is here for you, and if you have any additional banking or borrowing needs, please keep us in mind. If you need to ask a question during the workshop tonight, please click the Questions tab and type in your question. The photo to the left is the screen of an iPad, and the photo to the right is the screen of a desktop. Throughout the presentation and during the Q&A session, we will relay the questions to our speaker. Please note that this workshop is also being recorded and will be available for you to view on Ardent's website within the next few days. Now let's talk about our speaker. Nicole is a posture alignment therapist and owner of Pain Free Philly. She earned her Postural Alignment Specialist Certificate and her Exercise Therapy Skills Certificate through the Ioscu Institute. She has a master's degree in dance education from Temple University and has a background in dance, movement, and teaching. Nicole, take it away.
Hello. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you so much, Ardent Credit Union, for hosting this workshop tonight. I want to thank everyone who's on this call for joining us on this kind of rainy, scary looking Tuesday evening. I'm honored to be here. And as Lisa mentioned, I am the owner of Pain Free Philly. I do posture alignment work. I encourage you to ask questions. This setup is a little different because I can't see your faces, but I really look forward to hearing your feedback and your questions. So please do type those in. And first, I would like to talk to you about how I was led to this work. And I was led to this work out of my own desperation. My life, excuse me, and thank you so much, Lisa. So my life personally was decimated by chronic pain. And these are photos of me taken several years ago. One of the photo on the left is me trying to do administrative work at my home office. And you notice I'm wearing braces, like customized braces. I also had these special gloves for my hands because I had a lot of nerve pain. I was trying to have like the perfect ergonomic setup. So I had like my wedge cushion and my seat height right, and my feet were elevated, and the monitor just so. And I still had unbelievable pain. And the photo on the right was taken in an occupational therapy clinic when I was trying to get some relief from my pain. My pain started I'm in my late 40s. My pain started in my mid 20s. And I have a very strong background in dance, and I hurt myself training very intensively. But I lived with pain for basically almost my entire adult life. And it never prevented me from maintaining my home, being able to go to work. It was just, it felt like kind of like a cross that I had to bear. And about a little over a decade ago, I was in a car accident that completely changed my life. And I get emotional when I talk about this still, because my life became so small. And I really became like like a child again, because I couldn't do the simplest of tasks, like preparing food, cleaning my apartment, going to work, driving. I didn't drive for over 5 years because of this disabling pain that I had experienced. So it was when I was in my accident, it was like I was already suffering from chronic pain for so many years. I was pretty weak, and the accident just pushed me that much over the edge, so that the impact was magnified. Because we have a saying in this work, it's not the accident, it's the body that you take to the accident. And it was like a perfect storm. What I found, so I tried everything you can imagine. I tried, I went this traditional route, physical therapy, cortisone injections, epidurals, pain medication. Then I tried less traditional. I tried acupuncture. I tried chiropractic, massage, and throughout all of my travels, I would find maybe some temporary relief, but nothing sustainable. And I really didn't know that I was going to find my way out of this darkness. And it changed, and I was in a really, and it affected me psychologically. I was very depressed, and I had terrible self-esteem because I couldn't even support myself. My parents were helping to sustain me, and I was on disability because I had so much pain. And I wasn't like in a wheelchair. I wasn't someone that you would see and think, oh my God, must be in so much pain. But I just had like terrible nerve pain and joint pain, and it was like became my life to get out of pain. And I don't really know that I ever would, to be honest with you. But I'm here in front of you today, and now I'm helping other people find their way out of pain, which I am like so humbled, and it's such a gift to be in this position and to be on the other side of it and to be able to give back. So I saw, I'm in the Philly area. We have so many experts, people at the top of their fields. And I did my homework. I went to the best, and I was still like hitting this wall and not getting sustaining relief, and so frustrated, and worked with talented people too, and with well-intended people. But after many roads, someone recommended postural alignment therapy. I'm like, what's postural alignment therapy? That sounds weird. And I sat on the information for over 2 years before I followed up on it. Then I did follow up on it, and within like weeks of this approach, I was making significant gains, and it's cumulative, and it built, and I was really motivated, and I felt a difference when I did these specific exercises. So this method discovered something that the experts missed. And I'm here today. It worked. It's definitely a process. It's not magic. It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of movement and literal movement to get to where I am, off of all my pain meds and back to hiking and dancing and swimming and working and driving and contributing and cooking and all of the above. But my journey is that, so I was tired where I got healed. And because when I was well enough to return to work, doing this type of work was all I wanted to do. And I was hired where I was healed. I studied this method. I got certified in this method, in postural alignment therapy. And then I started working with clients, getting great results. Fast forward to 2019, I broke out on my own, and I am now speaking to you from my office in Winmore, my business, Main Creek, Philly. And I'm like, really, thank you for, like, I'm kind of going crazy with these slides here, but what you're going to learn tonight is the relationship between posture and health, something I hadn't really thought of. And I came out of like a dance movement background too. How your workstation can impact your posture. And we're going to do a few exercises today. And I know you're going to do great with them. This is new because I won't be able to see you, but I'm going to really describe it well, and I'm going to demonstrate also that you're going to feel a difference in your posture and can help prevent injury because it can help to improve your alignment, which is all about what this work is about. Now, we are living in a time where we can live and live very well and move so little. And if this were true before the pandemic, this is like exponentially more powerful than during this pandemic, because a lot of us we're coming out of this incredible period of time in the last 15 months, and we have learned different ways to cope, some healthy, some not so healthy. We have spent a lot of time indoors, and for a good while, some of us have been living like, and myself included, and like when this first hit, I felt like I was kind of living in a bunker where I would, order things like we've got, order things and, they magically show up in front of your doorstep. This is the norm now. So we are moving even less than we were before the pandemic. And as a result, with these sedentary lifestyles that we are all living, we have now a disability of chronic pain. It's one of the most significant disabilities of our time. And it affects more Americans than diabetes, heart disease, cancer combined. So I want you to think about that. Think about people maybe you yourself have been impacted by diabetes, heart disease, cancer. You take that number, you combine all of those people. Chronic pain is affecting more than that group of people. So that's huge. And we don't move much. We move actually very little. It's pretty rare when we're even reaching our arms overhead. It's pretty like we don't even have to turn behind us when we're driving. We should, but that is, of course, with the cameras I'm referring to, but we have cameras that are doing the work for us. We don't even have to pump our trunks because we have little buttons that do that. We have so many luxuries. We got Amazon Prime and we've got Netflix and we've got Grubhub. We're going to the supermarket to buy, if we even are driving to the supermarket, a lot of us are just ordering to buy food that other people have prepared for us. And our lifestyles have evolved, maybe not for the better. Our bodies haven't. Our bodies haven't changed. Our bodies are still designed to hunt and to climb and to crawl and to leap and to jump and to run and all of the above. But we are basically like kind of living in boxes where most everything is like, we don't even have to reach far to get like our hand soap or, our sponges when we're at the kitchen sink. Things are very convenient, but there's a price that we pay with that. And then with posture, when we look at posture, and a lot of times when I say I do posture work, the person will say, oh God, I better stand up straighter. And then I in turn say, well, I probably need to stand up straighter too myself. But here's the thing, it's more than about standing up straight, okay? It's about the direction that your feet are pointing. It's about the direction that your knees are pointing. Maybe they're turning out to the sides, maybe they're turning in. It's about the position of your hips. Maybe they're a little twisted, maybe one hip's higher. It's about your shoulders. Maybe there's an elevation, maybe there's a twist in the shoulders, maybe your head is shifted over to the left, to the right. So it's looking at what we call your load-bearing joints, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, your ankles, and seeing how they relate to each other. And then like looking at your differences, not just right to left, but also front to back too. And seeing what's different. What's different when we look at your right profile and then your left profile. And here's the thing. We all have differences. No one looks like this. We are not going for perfection. We're going for improvement with this work to be a little more balanced, a little more symmetrical, because that is when the body functions the most efficiently, and it functions with the least amount of pain or no pain, which is what we're going for pain-free movement. Now, if I could, typically I'll ask folks what they see with this client, and you may notice, I want you to imagine, I don't know if you see my cursor, I hope you can, if I had a line running right up from his ankle, straight up, it would be even more obvious, but it might jump out to you that there's a forward head. You see how his hands are in front of his thighs? They're not at the sides of his body, like we saw in that diagram just a slide prior. They are in front. His shoulders are very forward. We see a lot of his upper back position, right? Ideally, we're not seeing a lot of that upper back in the profile. We see that his feet, I don't know if you can see that, his feet are also, they're turned out, they're splayed. And this client is extremely fit. He obviously takes amazing care of himself, and he, works out with a trainer, he watches his diet, but you can still have postural issues and be in impeccable shape. So we're going to go back to him. But right now, we are going to talk about and I'm just checking, yep, okay. Checking my notes here, you caught me. I want you to stand up. I can't see you, but I'm going to trust that you're going to do this. And I'm going to do it too, because you've been standing in the same position now long enough, so that this is also why I want you to do this. So I want you to stand, and I want you, I'm going to I wonder, let me see, to stop my screen share. I'm actually not going to do that right now. You're going to stand, and I want you to tuck your pelvis under. So I want you to kind of like make your butt flat. And when you do this, and I'm going to ask you questions about this at the Q&A, I want you to notice what's going on with your knees when you tuck your pelvis under. My knees, I feel a bend in my knees, naturally. I'm also going to ask you to notice what's going on with your feet. Do you feel the feet more in the outer edges or more in the inner edges? Over here, I'm feeling it more on my outer edges. I'm going to be curious what you have to say. I'm also feeling more rounded in my upper back position too. Now, this might be different for you, right? And, oh, there I am. I'm a little larger. And now we're going to do the opposite. I want you to tip your pelvis forward, so it's like you're sticking your butt out, okay? Like you could rest like a little cup of tea at the small of your back. And when I do that, I feel my knees are very straight. They're almost like in a locked out position. I also feel the weight more on the insides of my feet. And I feel like my chest is thrust forward. I feel like my back is arched. So I feel these changes in my spine position too, my upper back position. So, right, so we just had you change your pelvic position, and you felt changes up and down the kinetic chain. You felt a difference in the knee position. You felt a difference in the distribution of the weight on the outer edges of the feet, inner edges of the feet. You felt like rounding in the spine. I think you did. I'm looking forward to hearing from you about that. Or you felt like more extended in your spine. Nothing else changed besides your pelvic position. So that lets us know that the pelvic position is really important, because it houses your upper body. It's the foundation for your upper body as well. So we see the pelvis as like the seat of the posture with this work. And thank you, Lisa and Aletta, so much for bringing this back. So and it's interesting because I never really thought of my pelvic position before I started doing this work as like having that much to do with every piece of the posture. And I want you to think about a lot of, so I want you to think, like, you can and there are different analogies we can use. We can think of our bodies like you think of like a car. You think of like the wheels as your shoulders, as your hips. You can also think of your body, think of like a building, use that analogy of a building. And that may resonate more with some folks. Personally, I'm not that big of a car person, so kind of the building makes a little more sense to me. You think you have a shaky foundation, you have uneven framing, you're gonna have structural problems. And the more postural issues you have, that increases your chance for injury and increased pain. And I used to think, like my own life, I used to think dance was like, if I hadn't danced, then I wouldn't have had this odyssey of pain. But now, being on the other side of it, it wasn't dance that was the problem. Our body, we're made to dance. It was having the postural issues that I had, and then taking that body to dance and asking my body to work in ways that it could not accommodate because of my postural issues. That was the problem.
Nicole. Before we move forward, we do have a question.
Yes.
So the question is, how do you know if you have a shaky foundation or uneven framing?
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing that question, and I thank the participant who posted that. What you can do is we're going to a little later in this presentation, we're going to the wall is a great reference point because you can feel differences right to left. But short of the wall, looking in the mirror, if you are looking in the mirror and you see feet that are like turned out, or maybe one foot's slightly turned out, the other foot's really turned out, or one foot's turned in, one foot's turned out, like looking to see if the direction that your knees point, are they pointing out or in? If it looks like one hip is higher, just looking at the mirror, you can sometimes like visually see right to left differences. And there are different tests we can do also to determine imbalances. For example, Lisa, why don't we all do this? Because this is a really easy test to do. And even without seeing you, I can talk you through this really easily. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna find a strip of blank wall if you have it. That can sometimes be challenging to find an area of wall that doesn't have something hanging. So I have got this wall and I'm gonna back up. I want my heels making contact with the wall. I want both butt cheeks making contact with the wall, and I want my upper back making contact with the wall. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to notice well, first of all, does the back of your head touch the wall effortlessly? If it doesn't, I want you to take your hands, and see how many fingers it takes between the back of the wall and the back of your head. Because if your head is not effortlessly on the wall, then you have a forward head issue, and that is super, super common. It's actually more common to not have a forward head issue. You know what I mean? It's more common to have a forward head issue than not have a forward head issue. And then if you feel a difference, like right to left, like right now, and honestly, like I've done my exercises today, I can feel that my left shoulder blade is making more contact with the wall than my right shoulder blade. And maybe you feel that difference too, or not specifically that difference, but you feel more contact with one shoulder blade than the other. You can look down at your hands and see maybe one hand is more forward than the other hand. Maybe both arms are forward. That would be like you've got rounded shoulder position, you have a rounding in your upper back position. You might feel like even like you may look down at your feet, and if they're not pointing straight ahead, then that's less than ideal too. So those are examples of like postural issues. Did that make sense to the participant, Lisa?
I believe so, yes. Thank you, Nicole. And we would just like to remind everyone that if you need to ask a question, simply click the questions tab on your dashboard, type in your question, hit submit, and we'll communicate the question to Nicole for you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Excellent. So we have the wall test, and then we have the mirror, and then I think I'm not sure if it's, and then we can also do some exercises to see if we feel a difference too. And I'm going to see if, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind bringing up the PowerPoint. Awesome. Thank you so much. And okay, markers for longevity. Simple things like push-ups. And a lot of, especially for women with upper body strength, as we are aging, we feel that in our ability to do something as simple as push-ups are markers for longevity. Grip strength. So if you live with your partner, how many times are you asking your partner to open a really tough jar for you? That's an indicator for longevity, for like strength and also on and off the floor. too. So think about it. You're probably not on and off the floor much unless you have a young child or grandchildren, or you are taking yoga, then you get on and off the floor. There's something in your life that is, I mean, when we're cleaning, on and off the floor, but we can like go several days and not get on and off the floor. And that is, there was actually like a fascinating study in Brazil. There's something called the sitting rising test, which shows that your ease of getting on and off the floor is a marker for longevity. It can predict like how many years you will live with certain population, which I found to be fascinating. Walking speed, how quickly you can walk. So it is that adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. And a lot of you are probably working from home, right? Because our lives were turned upside down in these last 15 months. And a lot of you may have been working at your dining room table as your workstation. And maybe you've heard sitting is the new smoking. Well, here's the thing, is sitting all day, every day is the problem. It's not that sitting is inherently evil. It's not that standing all day, every day is the answer. And when earlier in the slide, when I talked about like the workstation setup, your workstation is important. And I do have a slide on like ideal height for your monitor and for your forearms and for your knees and for your hips, but that's not enough. You need to move, and you need to move often. And I suggest getting a timer and setting it for every 20 minutes and changing levels. Like if doing a plank on your forearms is appropriate for you, if doing squats are appropriate for you, if a plank and squats, two of the best exercises you can do for yourself, doing some posture work, changing it up. Because that is better for your cognition. We're really only designed to be able to focus 20 minutes at a time, and that's best for your body. We need variety. So these ideal workplace setups, it is important, but it's not the answer. And there are very smart people that argue that having your ideal workplace setup can sometimes hurt you, because what it can do is it can make it comfortable for you to stay in the same position a lot longer than you would typically, because of like the ideal angles, because we need you to move. And running up and down the stairs, like doing jumping jack, doing whatever is appropriate for you with your situation, but varying it up and moving. And honestly, and I don't have a slide about this, but we are like, as a country, we are horrible with getting our steps in. And you may have heard like 10,000 steps to wellness. That is a day. That is like approximately an hour and 40 minutes. That's a lot of walking. And today I did not walk an hour and 40 minutes. It takes a good bit of time, but to get back to the walking as our main form of locomotion, that alone is huge. And even if you just park farther away, like start where you are, park farther away in the parking lot, take the stairs instead of the elevator. Every bit of movement counts. And with this work, as I mentioned, it wasn't the car accident that I was in, it was the body that I brought to the car accident. So when people have pain, a lot of times they associate it with like running or like a particular activity, but there are postural pieces to this, barring, of course, God forbid, like, like you're hit by a truck or something, something like catastrophic. But these types of like chronic nagging injuries, there is almost always a postural component to it. And taking the ergo breaks, as I mentioned, breaking up the day, sprinkling with movement, start where you are, do what you can. Even if you are taking tomorrow one movement break in your workday, that's one more movement break than you were taking the next day. And we're living in a time where just like we spend so much time, and I believe this is behind our glowing screens. And these devices that we have with their dings and their notifications is very addictive. So anytime you have a tremendous gift, which is technology, it's also a curse, right? And I believe this is our exercise break. Speaking of that, so that kind of worked out really well. So I want you to Go back to the wall, okay? And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to take notice. I want you to take notice of what is going on, how far your head is from, the back of your head is from the wall, like any differences right to left with your shoulder blades. If you peek down at your feet, take note of where your hands are before these exercises. Take a breath here. And remember these results and open your eyes and walk away from the wall. Awesome. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to curl your fingers. So you're going to curl your fingers and have your palms like kiss each other. So we call this the golfer's grip hand position. I don't golf, so I didn't make that name up, but this is what it's called, golfer's grip. And I want you to maintain this wrist position, okay, this hand position. And then I want you to have, you can't see my feet, but that's okay. Your feet are about hip width distance apart, and I want both feet pointing straight ahead. And I want you to glide your shoulder blades together slightly. You're not like thrusting your chest forward. You're keeping your spine in a neutral position, but gliding your shoulder blades together. And then you're extending your arms out to the sides. And then I want you to, and now the disclaimer is if you have neck or wrist issues, neck or shoulder pain, this may not feel good, so just watch. You choose what is appropriate for you. But if this is appropriate for you, I've got my arms onto the sides and my fingers, my palms are exposed, my fingers are curled, and I'm circling. I want to keep my elbows straight. So if you feel like you need to modify, you want to lower the arms but still keep the elbows straight. And we're circling forward. This is a great exercise for differences in shoulder height. Like if one shoulder is a little higher than the other, this engaging the shoulder blades together, like squeezing the shoulder blades slightly together, and then making the arms work from a more symmetrical position can often help to level out asymmetrical shoulder blades. So you may be feeling a little fatigue, and now I don't want you to stop. I want you to flip your palms, and I want them to face upwards. So now we're going to do backward circles. And the truth is, a lot of us need the backward circles, myself included, more than we need the forward circles, because a lot of us we're forward people. We are fighting this the forward shoulder position, and all of the texting and the driving and the keying, and we're going to go, we'll do about, I don't know, it's hard to talk and count. To tell you the truth, I'm not the best at talking and counting, so I'm going to let you know when I start to feel it. And one of my clients, he did 150 of these in one direction. That was the record. I was pretty impressed by that, but certainly not going to do that. I'm going to next have you walk on over to the wall. You've still got this exposed palm position. I want you to bring your knuckles to your temples, okay? And then you're going to back over to the wall, and then we're going to do elbow curls. So you're going to have your elbows touch and have your elbows touch back. Elbows touch together if you have that range of motion, and elbows touch the wall. You're reaching for the wall. I'm going to keep my tummy tight, my spine neutral, and I can already feel this. I like to tell the story. The first time I did a talk, one of my friends she and her husband attended, and he started like peeling off layers doing elbow curls, and it was like early March, but he could feel his body temperature rise doing elbow curls. So this is another exercise that is great to have the shoulders in a more symmetrical position, and then do some work from that symmetrical position. This is also a movement we don't get a lot of. It is reminding the shoulders that they have a hinge function. And we'll do go at the speed that's right, the pace that's right for you. I've got to watch that I don't arch my back, because I love to extend my spine and arch my back, and that's a lot of my dance background. And a few more. And beautiful. One more. Hang in there with me. You're doing great. I can't see you, but I know you're doing great. You're going to interlace your fingers. You're going to stretch your arms straight, and you're going to have your arms reach overhead. Now, if it's appropriate for you, if it feels right, you can kind of tuck your chin slightly and peek up towards your hands. If that bothers your neck, you're going to look straight ahead. You're going to take what is right for you. I'm still mindful of my spine. I don't want to cheat. I don't want to arch my back. I still want to keep my pelvis in a neutral position. For me, that's a little tucked. And I want to engage my abdominal muscles, my lower abdominal muscles, not bearing down, just like a connection to my lower abs. And I want to not wear my shoulders as earrings. I want to drop my shoulders because when things get hard, that's what we have a tendency to do. Wear our shoulders as earrings. Feel a nice stretch in my shoulders. And we're going to take 2 long, deep breaths here. And then we're going to release it. So I'm going to close my eyes. You're going to inhale. Sip in as much oxygen as you can. And let it all go on that exhalation. And one more inhale. Feel your ribs expand. And let it all go. I like to tell people to count their breaths because then it guarantees, it lets me know that they're still breathing well, breathing deeply. And you can lower your arms. And now, walk on back to the wall. And I'm going to ask you, this is the Q&A question section. What is going on? What is different? But I want you to take note. I want you to take note of the back of your head. Is it maybe a little closer to the wall? And like maybe if there were 3 fingers, or 2 fingers, 1.5 fingers. Do you feel like you can stand up a little straighter? Do you feel like a difference in your hand position? If you look down, or your hands in a more even position than you noticed? Do you feel a little more contact? Maybe like you felt like one shoulder blade was forward, coming off of the wall, and it feels a little more centered, a little more even, right to left. And peek down at your feet. Maybe they're a little straighter, or maybe you feel more grounded. The weight is more evenly distributed. So after those exercises, I feel like I can stand up a little straighter. I don't know about you. Great work. And I'm looking forward to hearing what you felt was right for you. Thank you so much. And yes, Lisa.
Yes, we do have a couple people that are saying they felt their head closer to the wall, less fingers in between their head and the wall.
Awesome. I love it.
And we do actually have a question that came in. So one of our guests is asking, why do you have to curl your hands in that specific position?
That is a great question. And to be totally honest with you, what I was taught was that when we have this stiff wrist position, it helps to transfer the work. Like basically there's a tendency for our elbows and for our wrists to do the work that was intended for the shoulders. What I was taught was that helps to isolate the shoulders more easily when we have this stiff wrist position with these curled fingers. But to be honest, and the question for your guest, you can still achieve it with having your fingers straight. But I'm also going to say that a lot of people that I tend to work with a lot of folks in their 60s and 70s. There are a lot of people that I work with that have arthritis in their hands, and they have lost some range of motion in their hands, and they're like not able. When I first tried to do this, like I wasn't able to do this, but after time I was able to do this. I also think it gives like this opportunity, like these curled fingers. It's not a movement that we usually use, so it's working the fingers and the muscles of the hand in a different way. So even though that's what I wasn't taught that, I think that might have something to do with it. I hope that helps.
Yes, and we are having some more feedback coming in, Nicole. One of our guests said, those exercises were amazing. I felt a difference.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I love it.
And another guest is asking, is it bad if my palms don't touch as yours did?
Not at all. When I first did this, it didn't look anything like that. So it's not a movement that we do a lot. So most people, they can access that range, but the first time trying to do it, they're not going to be able to have the palms touch, and they might just have some tightness also. So not at all. And that's something that like it really changed for me over time.
All right, and that was our last question for now, Nicole. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You guys are a wonderful audience. I can't even see you, but I can feel it. So keep them coming. That's great. So workstation, back to the workstation question. So here's the deal. Assess your workstation. Ideally, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm going to move my cursor. So ideally, your elbows are at 90 degrees. Your hand, like you've got right angles. You've got that right angle at the elbow. You've got that right angle at the hips. You have the right angle at the knee. Ideally, actually, with this, I would prefer the ankle underneath the knee. So you know, you have your it is problematic. So I'm coming to you from a laptop, but I'm using a keyboard when I work on my laptop, because I can't like a detachable keyboard, because I'm coming to you. I love standing desks. I'm coming to you from a standing desk. They're not the answer, but they are a way to vary your position, which is very helpful. But I can't, like, so I'm kind of being silly, but the keyboard, like, you are elevated right now. You're on a keyboard. Let me see if I can show you. And you're going to see my mask hanging here, so I can remove that. So I have a laptop stand, and then I have the standing desk. Now, my keyboard is down here, my monitor's up here, because I can't maintain good posture and type on my laptop. I can't keep my elbows at 90 degrees and my shoulders down and stay reasonably upright from a laptop. So I also have a mouse too, because I don't want to be like hiking my shoulder all the time and using my trackpad. So that's an adjustment that I made. That's a pretty easy, it's a pretty quick fix. Now, it's not to say, like, you can be very rounded in your posture, and you can stand, and you can still stand and be very rounded in your posture. So standing is not going to change that roundedness, right? So we need to do some exercises to, like, for example, because so many of us are fighting that, and that's still an area that I want more improvement in. So, like, then we want to target those muscles in between the shoulder blades when we have, like, that, when we have the rounded shoulders. So you can make your workstation more ergonomically friendly, but you still got to move your body, and you still have to do like functional postural breaks, and stay as active as possible. And these little, like, you know, mouse and detachable keyboard are lifesavers. And there we go. Yes, squash, push-ups, and planks. So, and that was the third one. I was having like a brain freeze earlier. So I love squats, because remember, that's an exercise that we do every day. All, like, when we're getting out of chairs, when we are climbing stairs, we need to use our gluteal muscles, these large muscles, these quads, the hamstrings. When we're getting on and off the floor, we need to remain functional. And remember, your ease of getting on and off the floor is a marker for longevity. You don't want to lose that ability. Push-ups are tremendous. They are huge indicators of how healthy you are. A lot of folks, a lot of women cannot do push-ups on the ground. So I start where you are. So we do push-ups on the wall. We do push-ups on the chair. We do push-ups on the counter. There are a gazillion ways to modify. So you don't have to be, like, put off by these exercises maybe you think that are, like, not suitable for you, like you're not strong enough to do that. It's all about meeting you where you are, like finding what's appropriate for you, and then pushing yourself, and then challenging yourself. Because if you are doing, like, there are exercises that I do that we go after postural change, and then there are exercises that I do with folks where we go at where there are strengthening exercises. And the truth is, if you want to get stronger, like, which, face it, most of us do, if you're not feeling demand, you're not getting stronger. So you have to vary, like, wherever you are, you have to increase the demand so that you're feeling some work. Planks, one of the world's best exercises, because here's the thing, everybody's got a floor, and you don't need any equipment, and you can do it anywhere at any time, changing levels, getting on and off the floor, amazing at going after, like, twists in the body, like anti-rotation muscles. So those are little micro workouts, and you want to be in an environment that hopefully supports that, and that is going to lead to improved comfort and performance. And MSDs, musculoskeletal disorders. And that is a huge cause for worker absenteeism and decreased productivity. So these types of movement breaks, they're not only good for our mental health to just break away from our work, and we will be ultimately more productive. And as I'm saying this to you, I'm reinforcing it for myself, because I too am a fellow traveler on the path, and I get sucked in, and it's like one more thing, and it can be hard. It's like a simple thing to do, but it's not easy to do. But when you do have these breaks, you've got, because we have all this repetitive movement with our mousing and with our keying and so varying it up is hugely important, and it's also helps to decrease stress. Like, I felt better after just doing this few exercises with you all. See, these movement breaks are super, super important, especially in this time of just craziness with all this screen time. So another reason why I do this work, and then I want to make sure to have time for your questions, is for folks like Ari. Ari is awesome, and he had a terrible sciatica attack. He had to be carried out of his apartment on a stretcher. He was scared. He was like embarrassed. He lives alone. He didn't know what his life was going to be like, and his sciatica attack was so severe that he had to take a leave of absence from work, and he had to, he could no longer go on road trips. He loved road trips. It was difficult for him to go upstairs, lift anything, and that's a big deal, because Ari worked in a healthy food. He's semi-retired and acupuncturist, worked in like a health foods market and really enjoyed his work, and he was it impacted him profoundly. As pain is very personal, and it does, and our bodies are it's a mind-body connection. It's impossible to not be impacted psychologically. And then, you know what, guys? I'm sorry, I messed up. Ari is doing really well now. Ari is doing so well that he is able to, he sent this photo to me because we've kept in touch. I saw Ari only for like a total of 9 visits, but he's a real DIY guy, and he committed and he did his work. And he was like, Nicole, this photo was taken in a gardening community in Massachusetts, where he spent like 5 weeks raking and shoveling fertilizer and weeding and down digging in the dirt. And that was his idea of a good time. So that's awesome that he was able to do this. And he said, Nicole, I feel stronger now than I did before I met you, before I was injured, because I've committed to this work, and I do my daily routine, and I feel more resilient and more powerful. So good for Ari. And now this was a sneak peek. So this client of mine, remember we talked about him earlier, forward head and forward shoulders and turned out feet and pelvis thrust forward. So you see this line, right? This is a line that I use in my work. This was visit 1, pre-pandemic. Visit 8, we're in the pandemic, so this is over Zoom. You can see his head is back. You can see his shoulders are back. You can see his arms still a little forward, but moving in the right direction with the arms, and the pelvis is back. His pelvis is not drifting forward. His feet are pointing straight ahead. And he felt a lot better, and his posture really improved. So it's not a surprise that he felt better, because the posture is very telling and can often tell us why that person's having pain, or it's not a surprise why they're having pain where they're having. And then you're going to meet Jackie, and you know what? I kind of so Jackie, this was pretty awesome, and this is super, super rare. I'm going to put that out there. She suspected she herniated her disc, and it was during the pandemic. She didn't want to go to the hospital. We worked together. In the first visit, she had unbelievable change in her posture. So the photo on the left is beginning of the visit. The photo on the right, she felt better. She felt more stable. And because of course she was a lot more balanced. And then know that this is a process, but it's never too late. Don't blame age, blame poor alignment, which is not something that you hear a lot. You hear more just accept this. As we age, we should accept a life of further diminished capacity. I don't believe that to be the case. I feel better than I felt 20 years ago. So I know it's not the case. But we are all fighting this. We're fighting gravity. We're fighting this good fight. Now, I want to allow time for questions, and you've been an awesome audience. I can feel your energy, and I want to let you know also that as a thank you, so with my work, I assess the imbalances, I determine the root cause, and I customize things for my folks that I work with. I'm offering everyone here a free consult. If you are curious about this work, we can meet over Zoom, we can meet in person in my office in Winmore. As a thank you for attending, we'd love to hear your feedback in a quick, brief survey that Lisa has created. And as a thank you, you will receive a PDF of the exercises that we did together with a little photo. And I've got such a great husband. He let me take a photo of him doing the exercises and the description. And now I'm just like so grateful to be here and would love to open up for questions.
All right, Nicole, we do have a couple questions that have come in. So the first question is, how is posture alignment therapy different than yoga?
So that is a great question, Lisa. And to tell you the truth, and I get a lot of questions like that. I get like, how is posture alignment therapy different than physical therapy? How is it different than yoga? How is it different than Pilates? Well, the difference is, I'm gonna talk about a client that I just saw today. With yoga is like, from what I understand about yoga, and I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot about yoga, but it seems to me like more of a spiritual, like to prepare. The yogic postures are intended to prepare the body to be able to sit for long periods of meditation. And with posture alignment therapy, we don't have that spiritual component. It is the exercises are designed to improve your posture, to address right-left differences, to improve function, to identify differences like, I don't have full range of motion in my left knee, but I've got it in my right. Like, well, we want to change that. We want to get your body moving as balanced as possible, as symmetrical as possible. So equal strength, as close to equal strength right to left, as close to equal range of motion right to left. And we also go after like the major postural issues, and we want to give the body some stimulus to create change in those postural issues, which is not the goal of yoga. Although there are yoga poses that I think are very effective, and also some yoga poses with specific modifications that I am a huge fan of, and they're, and it is something that it is an area that we pull from. But with this work, we're going after creating change, or we're going after like identifying imbalances and correcting them. So thank you.
All right. Our next question, Nicole, is about the workspace, and it's really, how long should you sit at your desk compared to standing and walking around?
Yes. So in a perfect world, you're getting up every 20 minutes and you are moving in some capacity, and you're doing like posture exercises, you're doing planks, you're doing squats, you're doing push-ups, you are running up and down the stairs, you're getting on and off of the floor. Every 20 minutes you're moving. And as far as telling you how many hours, like what your standing to sitting ratio should be, I don't feel like, I wouldn't want someone to tell me what my standing to sitting ratio would be, because I really, some days I need to vary it more than others. Some days I find it more challenging to concentrate when I'm standing, so I'm going to sit for like certain projects. So I can't give you numbers, but I will tell you that myself personally, I definitely, like every day when I'm working, I'm spending a good part of my day standing. But depending on the task at hand and kind of like how much movement I've got in the day, that'll also impact. And also, here's the thing, is that not everyone is that comfortable. Some people have some pain issues, and that may be why you're on the call. There was for a very good bit of my life, standing wasn't comfortable. So that would also impact it. So kind of like personal, but the takeaway is every 20 minutes, get up and move and do something that feels like helpful and helpful for you and challenges you.
All right, Nicole, our next question is, could you do damage to your posture if you're standing too long at your desk?
So that's a great question. you can do damage to your posture if you can do damage to your posture. It is not about standing, because our bodies are designed to stand, but as I mentioned before, and that kind of like ties in with that, if you're very rounded and you're standing all day in this position, it's not helping your posture, right? It just, you're changing the position of your pelvis, right? So you're going from like, you're in a seated position with like the hip flexors a little tighter, and then the glute muscle shut down. And then when you're standing, you have a more lengthened position for your hip flexors, and maybe a more neutral position for the pelvis. So you're changing your pelvic position, but you can still be very rounded and reinforcing that standing or sitting. So it kind of speaks to the overall, I hope, takeaway from this presentation, that it's not about the position. It's not about sitting or standing. If you have postural issues that are just like that you're not addressing, they're not going to improve on their own. And it's not about, as I mentioned before, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. So it's about like creating some change, even if it's micro change, because if we do nothing to address it, nothing improves, if that makes sense.
All right, and we have another question, Nicole. The question is, do you have any tips for your posture when you're biking?
That's a great question. And I actually recently met a woman who found a physical therapist who did biking assessments. So she and her husband were going to go in, and the physical therapist was going to, like, they would bring their bikes and the physical therapist would analyze. What my instinct is to ideally not be rounded, but I don't honestly feel like I know enough about the different biking options as far as seats to be able to really speak intelligently to that. I can speak to like rowing. I watched a client on Zoom with rowing, and I was able to cue him to really like maintain an upright position as opposed to like reinforcing a rounded position. So I think I'd like to see the person on the bike, that's my instinct, and dig more into that. But remember, like neutral spine position is not, like neutral spine is our happy place, and that's what we want to reinforce. So you want to avoid a position where you're hunched over. You also want to avoid a position where you're like your chest is thrust forward and you're arched. We want to be in the middle, and we want to train our bodies so that the movement comes from the hips and not from the back, if that makes sense. But I'd love to kind of like see the bike and learn more and take it from there.
All right, and we have time for one more quick question, Nicole. The question is, how long, on average, how long does it take someone to improve their posture with posture alignment therapy?
So it's very individual. Typically, like when I'm working with people in their 20s, their bodies are responding faster than people in their 70s. However, people can feel like postural. I think, some folks that they typed in that they felt a difference after those 3 exercises. So you can feel a difference like almost immediately, because I felt a difference too after doing those 3 exercises. But the secret with this work is that it's repetition. So it's like frequent flyer miles. Like you got to stay at it, and it's got to be consistent to maintain those gains. Because after we did those 3 exercises earlier, we all feel like a little more aligned, a little more upright. But then we're going back to our monitor, we're sitting at home with our spouse and having dinner and like watching TV, and then like the rounding, because these are our patterns of movement and they can like creep back in. So it's about like looking at this work as stimulus and providing opportunities for this stimulus throughout your day, throughout your life, to hold on to the gains. It's like your muscles have learned some bad habits. This work helps to teach them some new ones.
All right, and that was our last question, Nicole. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
And we would like to thank everyone for attending tonight. There will be a short survey sent out via email, and we would love to hear your feedback to help us improve for future workshops. And as Nicole mentioned, there in the survey, when you do complete it, you will receive a document that explains some exercises that you can do at home to improve your posture from Nicole. Thank you all and have a great night.